Hey, 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 everybody. We're the Serious Film Critics. We are back, and my name is Sam.
And I'm David.
All right, here we are kicking off episode 25, I believe. We're a quarter of a century through in our film-related show list here, so we're doing pretty well. How you doing, Dave?
Pretty all right. How about you?
Not too bad, man. Just getting over a cold. I will say I had some heart-wrenching news just now. I don't know if you're keeping up on NFL stuff, but my Packers just released Jordy Nelson.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, it happened like I think 20 minutes ago or so. So I'm kind of still processing it. And they signed that tight end Jimmy Graham. So I guess those are the two big moves right now. And I'm just like, I'm in a glass case of emotion.
Well, they're gonna have to sell the farm just to keep Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah, Kirk Cousins just got something like $29 million a year. So
it's all guaranteed too.
It's all guaranteed.
The entire contract, I think I read, is all guaranteed.
Oh man, that
Aaron
is
Rodgers
insane.
is probably going to demand $30 million a year, and they're going to have to sell the entire team.
Oh god, I don't know how they're gonna. I guess that getting rid of Jordy is one of the steps they had to do to pay for him. But man, that is sad. I love that guy.
Yeah.
It's a new day in Packerland. Anyway, all right.
Cousins at the Vikings, so
yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty salty about that too. Anyway, all right, guys, we have a good episode today. We're gonna be talking a couple of reviews. We're gonna be reviewing the recently released Netflix original Mute, directed by Duncan Jones. And we're also going to be doing Wind River, which was just recently released on Netflix, but it's a 2017 movie by Taylor Sheridan, who wrote Sicario and Hell or High Water. So got some reviews there, and we'll be talking a little bit about the Oscars, stuff we watched, and shouldn't be a terribly long episode. And all right, I guess we can jump into it. You want to do Oscars or stuff we've been watching first, Dave?
Let's do Oscars real quick.
I don't have too much to say about it. It was kind of predictable. I'm happy because I love Shape of Water, and I'm glad that it won a lot of awards, but I don't know. Nothing particularly surprising.
Yeah, I think it was funny. I was telling you that Bing thing was like predicting the winners, and I think it got everything right. Maybe it missed a few.
Did it really?
Yeah, it was like it got Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Picture, Director, Actress. I didn't look at everything they had, but
I don't know, man. I'm kind of sad that Gary Oldman won the Oscar for this role. He looks really good in it. It just seems like such a Oscar baity. It just feels like I haven't seen the movie, so that's also probably not fair of me to comment on it, but it just looking at it, it just feels like such a performance. And Gary Oldman has just been so good in so many things that I don't know. It just feels kind of weird that this is, I guess it feels expected, but I'm just kind of like, this is really what he's winning it for.
I don't know if I've talked about this in our nomination episode, but it really bugs me that James Franco didn't get nominated. I don't even think that category was particularly strong. I think it had it had two or three really strong people and then two people that you could have easily dumped off of it. And he gave like an amazing performance. He literally put a movie that was already good on his shoulders and carried it.
I've still got to see this thing. I really do. I'm waiting for it to come out on. Is it already out on Blu-ray or?
I don't know. It would be coming out soon, I think, though.
Yeah, I'll have to check this thing out, and I still have to watch The Room. But yeah, that's one thing. I'm glad Shape of Water won too, because it's such a weird movie that it doesn't really feel like a standard Oscar movie.
I feel like it had some aspects of a standard Oscar movie, especially like the setting and stuff. But yeah, it didn't feel like your normal Oscar winner for me at all.
No, it definitely didn't. And I'm also, I didn't even really look at the nominations too closely. I can't believe Blade Runner was not nominated for Best Picture.
I can. Science fiction.
Yeah, that's true. But I didn't really look at the nominations, and I didn't know until I was watching the Oscars that it wasn't nominated, and I was just furious at that. Like, really, The Post? I guess that's figures.
Well, it's Steven Spielberg, Meryl Streep, and Tom Hanks. It's like they wouldn't even have to watch a movie like that to give it a nomination.
Yeah, they couldn't even watch it, and they would just throw it on there just for kicks.
I think that there were, just like with the best screenplay with Get Out winning, I kind of feel like they were just like, well, let's give this one a win. So, because we don't want to give it a bunch of nominations and no win. We don't want to look like that.
Did it win? Wait, did it win for screenplay or director?
Original screenplay.
Oh, okay. For a second, I thought he won for director.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I don't.
I'm not sure that was entirely deserved.
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a good screenplay. What else? I'm trying to think what else was nominated.
The Big Sick, Lady Bird, Shape of Water, and Three Billboards.
Yeah.
I mean, Shape of Water had good writing.
It did. I like wonder how. I also kind of curious. I want to see this short movie that it's apparently copywriting or whatever. I mean, I don't really buy into that, but I'm still curious to see what the original product of this thing was. Yeah. Wasn't it a college film or something?
I don't know. I didn't read much about it, but I guess it didn't impact their decisions too much.
Yeah, which I'm glad. But yeah, I don't know. Nothing else too surprising. I can't believe Star Wars was nominated for score. That score was horrendous.
It's just because it's John Williams. I mean,
yeah, it's name. All it is name recognition. Like, I'm actually kind of sick of the Oscars now that I think about it.
I've been sick of the Oscars since freaking Tombstone, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is a sin beyond all repair that Val Kilmer was not nominated for that movie. That is one of the greatest performances ever, and he did not get nominated. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, I would literally put that top 10 all time easily, maybe top 5 in supporting performances. I mean, really, who's
it is
better?
So good. It is so good, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It was just kind of predictable.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, I guess you move on to stuff I'm checking out.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of stuff, so
yeah, I've watched a decent amount. So what's your
well, I watched Lincoln finally.
I don't. Lincoln just never appealed to me. I need to see it, but
I mean,
how was it?
It wasn't what I expected. I kind of am disappointed. I was actually talking to Adam. He loved it. I liked it a lot, but I mean, I was hoping they would pick a more interesting period of Lincoln's life, because it's all about him getting the I think it's the 13th Amendment. I don't remember which one passed to repeal slavery.
Yeah.
And that's the whole movie. And then it ends with him dying, which I feel like I didn't like that they ended it there. I feel like they could have ended it before that, but that's the whole movie.
They actually had his death in there. I didn't even know that.
They didn't show it, but they have they have him on his deathbed basically, and then they show one of his speeches. And there's also another thing that bothered me is like the costume design and everything is really good, but it's like you never really get any good shots of like Washington DC in that period. And I don't know if that was like a production like they had problems getting those shots or what, but it's like, you know, it felt like you were in the time period, but there was like no good sweeping shots of like what the period looked like. It was all like interior shots or really close in, so you didn't get to see like old school DC, which I was hoping to see.
Yeah, especially since we're from that area, it would have been so cool to see it back then. But yeah, it's kind of disappointing, especially since Spielberg is directing. You would expect some really cool cinematic visuals.
Yeah, I mean, everything was like a really close-in shot, and I mean, it was good, and the cinematography was good, but I was expecting that a lot. I mean, I guess it was trying to give you, because like a lot of the scenes were like in the House of Representatives, they just like were like acting like insane. It was pretty entertaining how they would argue and just like insult each other and stuff.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I don't know, and I mean, I feel like that's almost the stigma around this movie, that is, it's boring, but I remember I tried to watch like the first 10 minutes of it and it was engaging, but at the same time I didn't have really a desire to finish it.
It goes pretty quick, just because I think it's well paced, but yeah, I mean, it's not the best movie, honestly. And I mean, you know, there was one really good scene, like throughout the movie, I guess Lincoln would all through his life would just tell stories and people really loved him, and he's like, and he sits down and he's like, this reminds me of a story. And this guy runs out of the room. He's like, I can't listen to another one of your stories. And it was pretty good.
Sometimes I feel like Daniel Day-Lewis, the movies he's in are so dominated by his performances that it almost takes away from other aspects of the movie. And it can't blame him because he's so good. But sometimes it just feels like if it were like a sports team, it's like he's a star quarterback, but the rest of the team kind of sucks just because so much effort and attention is placed upon his shoulders. And
or like a basketball player who just like, you know, like he's just like Michael Jordan, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it just leans so heavily on his performance. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll check it out someday.
Yeah, you should. I mean, I would definitely recommend it, but yeah, I had some issues with it. Mostly especially after I just watched that Ken Burns Civil War series, which is long as hell, and it's like basically.
Oh man, I've been meaning to watch that. Was that good?
Oh, it's amazing, and there's some. I was actually going to talk about. There was some amazing stuff in there. It's like pretty funny. So after that,
it's on. That's on Netflix too, right?
Yeah, they just put it on Netflix.
Yeah, I keep meaning to check that out, but it's just the first episode is like an hour and 40 minutes or something. So I'm just trying to get that perfect time where I can knock out that first episode and then I'll get rolling on it. But
it's like a 9-hour documentary or something. I mean, it's long, but I mean, it just covers basically every single aspect of the Civil War.
That's awesome. I definitely want to see that. I didn't watch anything too crazy. I watched this Netflix movie Veronica. I don't know if you've seen promos for it or anything. It's yeah, there's a lot of clickbaity articles going around that's saying like this is the scariest movie of all time, and it definitely isn't. It's directed by Paco Plaza, who did this movie Wreck, which was pretty interesting, like an apartment building type movie as well. It's basically just a fairly standard exorcism story where this girl finds a Ouija board and her friends are the motivations for using the board are pretty muddled. I guess she like wants to talk to her dad or something, so she has a picture of him, and her friends are just kind of, I guess, doing it to screw around. And basically, you know, they mess with it and they awaken a pretty nasty spirit that haunts her for the rest of the movie. And it's interesting. There are some really cool visuals, but and the performances are pretty decent, but it's really nothing to. I would say it's kind of slightly above average horror fare. It's nothing to write home about. I watched The Gift. I don't know if you saw that with Joel Edgerton.
No, I haven't.
It was his first directing directorial debut, and it's got Jason Bateman in it. And that was pretty good. It was basically just a story of two friends who I guess went to high school together, and there was something that happened when they were in high school that's kind of got buried, and Joel Edgerton comes back into Jason Bateman's life all these years later, and there's sort of a slow building ominous drama that builds around that. It was pretty good. What else did you watch?
I watched Civil War, which I think we're actually going to talk about that coming up.
Oh man, good old Marvel.
Yeah, definitely. Just to kick it right off, that character Bucky is he's like on Loki's level of atrociousness, and the fact that they revolve so much of their story around him, like his performances are not good, his character isn't interesting, and it bothers me that he drives the plot of these movies. I cannot stand him, and he would be better off. Like everybody in that series would be better off if they just killed him off.
I actually literally fell asleep during this movie trying to watch it. I got about 40 minutes in and I passed out. It was just, the look of it was so uninspired. Like I just felt like it was drama for the sake of drama, just this build up between the two sides. And yeah, Bucky is the worst. Even in Black Panther, that was the worst part of the whole movie, was the second end credit scene had him in it, and it just sucked the life out of it. He's just like, the performance is bad, the character just is uninteresting, and I don't know, I have no interest in. I actually do want to watch it just so we can talk about it more in depth, but it's going to be a tough watch for me. I know that.
Yeah. I also love in the beginning scene, this made me really mad too. Like, basically, like the beginning scene wouldn't have even really happened if they had like the Hulk or Thor with them. And it's just so convenient that the two really strong Avengers weren't around, because then the movie wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, they're not even in it. It's ridiculous.
Because it would have created so many plot problems if they had people that strong during that fight. But not only that, but in the beginning with the bomb going off, like either one of them could have stopped that. So that just bugged me so much. That just set the tone for the whole movie. Like lazy, weak writing.
Well, in all of these movies, it's kind of suspicious that the Avengers aren't involved in all of them, or most of them.
It creates problems in every single movie. Like, why wouldn't you just call on one of the big guns if you need help?
Because it's like I understand that there's a lot of problems going on around the world, but you're telling me that the plot of these movies, which is pretty significant most of the time, usually it's some kind of threat that looms over the whole world, or at the very least a major city. You're telling me the Avengers are always off doing something more important than that? Like, get real.
Yeah, and they didn't even they couldn't even put them in the beginning and then have like something major happen, because I know they were the excuse is that Thor Ragnarok is happening at the same time as Civil War, so that's why Thor was gone. But they didn't even they just mentioned it offhand, like, oh yeah, they're not here. Like, instead of like having that happen in the beginning, like they have to leave, they couldn't even do that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And that's why the movies I tend to like most in Marvel, like, say, Spider-Man Homecoming and that Black Panther movie, there are reasons, at least there are decent reasons, why all the Avengers aren't involved. Like, Spider-Man Homecoming, Michael Keaton is really just kind of a bootlegger who's a pretty minor threat, and even then, they do have Iron Man kind of pop over and help out, which was, still a little pandery for me, but it worked. But at least I like these movies when they have lesser threats that make it feel acceptable that all the Avengers aren't getting involved. Because in most of them, it's like, I can't accept that the Avengers wouldn't all come together for this movie and take care of this issue.
Yeah, if there's ever a world-ending threat, all of the Avengers would always be there. They have nothing better to do. And the fact that they wouldn't be there is just stupid.
It is so stupid. But, oh, man. It just, even the reason for the whole conflict in Civil War, it just feels so contrived and so.
Well, it's like, it just in the comics, the Civil War is like this major all-encompassing thing with. There's a lot more build-up to it. Like, there's this Inhumans thing, which really that's more of the catalyst. And not only that, but I love the idea that a Civil War is literally just a single fight, because that's all it is. They have one fight, and then at the end, Iron Man fights Captain America and Bucky, and that's it. That's their idea of a Civil War.
Well, also, and I didn't even get to this scene in the movie when I was watching it, but why? It feels so ridiculous. I've seen it in the trailer a million times, where Bucky and Bucky and Captain America are literally just beating the hell out of Iron Man, and it just feels so gratuitous and so. I mean, obviously he's not their friend anymore, but why are they going so overboard?
That scene, it does make more sense in the context. Also, the one thing I did like is that he basically is about to literally, he destroys them basically in the fight, and he just loses awful dumb luck. But basically he's trying to kill the guy Bucky, because he found out, this is why I hate Bucky so much, because Bucky murdered both of his parents, and he just finds out right there. So he basically decides he's going to kill Bucky, and it's like, the guy Bucky has been responsible for tons of innocent people dying. He does deserve to die. Just freaking kill him. I don't care if he was brainwashed.
Why does Captain America like Bucky so much? Because I don't think I saw was he like the main bad guy in Winter Soldier or whatever?
Yeah, he was his friend in the first Avenger movie, and I guess that their relationship is supposed to be more powerful than anything else, because it's he will literally freaking stick up for Bucky no matter what. And I think it bothers me, because it's I feel like Captain America should feel more connection with the modern Avengers than this freaking guy that, I mean, he was his best friend in the Captain America movie, but I mean, the crap he will go through for this guy is just ridiculous for me.
Yeah, it doesn't feel believable at all.
Yeah, I mean, just like he should feel closer to Tony Stark than Bucky after all the crap they've been through. I mean, they've saved the world together multiple times, and this guy Bucky is just this guy that was his friend who got brainwashed and ended up killing tons of people, and he was brainwashed. Well, you know what? He's still a major threat, and you know what? Iron Man should have killed him. He did. The world would be safer without him.
Yeah, the universe would be a lot more interesting without him.
Yeah, it would be. I mean,
because he just adds a lot of staleness and boring elements to the world that we don't need.
I mean, the Civil War in the comics, it's there's this big event with the Inhumans, I think, where they end up killing a bunch of innocent people. The catalyst for that is way bigger. The X-Men are involved a lot more. And it's it just didn't work at all for me, the plot.
Yeah, I have. Well, I'm sure we'll revisit this movie at some point. I'll watch. It's still on Netflix, so I'm going to check it out pretty soon.
Yeah, it should be on there for a while.
I don't know if we'll do a review per se, but we'll go in on this one.
Yeah, I got a lot of bad things to say about this. Obviously, I've already said a lot, so.
Especially since this movie is so praised. I don't know what its Rotten Tomato score is right now, but I know when it came out, it was in the 90s, and I cannot believe it.
Yeah, and most people I know say that this or Winter Soldier is their favorite Marvel movie, and it's just man, I don't see. I mean, I think it has the same problems every Marvel movie has.
Yeah, strong disagree. All right. I watched some other stuff. Nothing. I watched The Wrestler for the first time. I had never seen it, actually.
That's a good movie.
I thought, yeah, it was really good. Mickey Rourke is amazing in it. And it kind of makes me wonder why he fell off the face of the earth after it. I feel like I haven't seen him in anything else since then.
I feel like I've heard he's like just like not a nice person in Hollywood. I don't know if there is any truth to that, but
oh really?
Yeah, I think that there's some stuff that's. I mean, I know the whole thing happened where he was like took time off to be a boxer and.
Oh right. Yeah, I looked up his filmography, and I guess he's been doing a lot of really B or C movies since he did The Wrestler, which is weird, but I guess if you have that kind of reputation, it makes sense. But he was amazing in it, and I thought it was really good. I've just never been a huge wrestling fan, so I think the movie would be a little more powerful to someone that really, truly appreciates wrestling, which isn't me, but I still respected it, and the way it's handled and the fan base and everything is just really well done. So I liked it a lot. Other than that, I just watched the 2 Ghostbusters movies. I don't know why they're on Netflix. And I'm actually not the biggest. I'm going to put it out there. I think they're overrated. I'm not a huge Ghostbusters fan. I like them, but I don't know. And I think I might actually like the second one more than the first, which I know is like blasphemy. Which I don't know. I just felt like the characters were better written in the second movie, and it didn't feel like, I don't know. It just felt like the team dynamic was there more. And I also think that the CG was a little bit less offensive. I don't know. Like Ghostbusters CG just has not aged well at all. And I know a lot of movies from that time period, it hasn't either, but it just was hard to watch at points. And I'm also just not the biggest Bill Murray fan. I don't know. His character I know is so beloved, and I just didn't really respond to him that well. So I like them. They're fun. Like I threw them on and I enjoyed them. I mean, the theme song's amazing, and elements of it are great, but I just, I don't know.
That's like the quintessential, you saw it as a kid and you love it movie. Because I definitely loved it because I saw it as a kid.
See, and that's the thing is I didn't really see these I probably didn't see either one of them till I was probably almost in college. So it didn't have that nostalgia for me. And I guess these are the kinds of movies that if you don't have that nostalgia attached to it, it's harder to love them. You know, I like them, but they just don't have that nostalgia factor for me. So I think that definitely influenced it. But other than that, that's about it. Nothing else.
Yeah, I also watched The Outsider, which is another Netflix original, and it was all right. Had a lot of problems, but if you're looking for like a good mafia, I mean, it's about the Yakuza in the 50s, but if you're looking for like a good mafia movie, it has like all the tropes, so there's some good action scenes in it and stuff.
It's old Jared Leto, right?
Yeah, I mean, the movie's kind of ridiculous because he basically just like, he saves this Yakuza guy in prison. He's trying to kill himself, and he's trying to kill himself so he can break out. And he basically is like, all right, you did that, so now you're going to get to join the Yakuza. And, he's like, all right. And it doesn't like, I don't know if they explain why he was in prison or why he joins the Yakuza, but he just does, and he just like moves up the ranks, of course. And it's like, it doesn't really like, okay, he did this, and I'm not sure why, and then didn't matter in the end.
So he's in the Yakuza?
Yeah, he like I said, he joins, and it's all a big thing. Like he's a white guy in the Yakuza, and they have all the problems. But of course, he still earns their respect by killing tons of people and moving up the ranks. Yeah, he kills a lot of people. Man.
So is it kind of like worth a watch if you just want to throw something on?
Yeah, I mean, if you were looking for like a good gangster movie, like I said, it's definitely got all that stuff. Like there were some scenes I really appreciate. Like there's a scene where they're like going to war with another clan, and it shows them doing like the montage of like all the hits, like just taking people out in different places.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it had good stuff like that, but I mean, it definitely wasn't a great movie.
All right, well, anything else? Or?
I think that's all.
Alrighty, let's move on to these juicy reviews here. I guess, do you want to start off with Mute?
Yeah, let's get to Mute first.
All right, let's get to Mute. Directed by Duncan Jones, released in was this a 2018 release or 2017?
2018. I think they produced it in 2017. Okay.
All right, so 2018. Excellent. So lead us into this one, Dave.
Yeah, so it opens with they're like, it shows a young boy who had his throat slashed by a boat propeller. He's like in a lake, and they pull him out. They're in Germany, like the German flag on the boat, so And yeah, I don't know if you noticed that. I didn't notice until the second time. There's a freaking German flag on their boat.
I didn't notice it. I noticed that they were saying like Germany was invading other countries or whatever, but I didn't catch it on the boat in the beginning.
Yeah. So yeah, they pull him out and they take him to the hospital, and he's from an Amish family, so they won't let him operate on him for some reason. So because of that, he's now mute. His vocal cords were slashed. So then it jumps to the future. Apparently it's in 2035, and it's in Berlin. And he works as a bartender at a strip club, and his girlfriend's name is Nadira, who's a waitress there. So then the first night that we see, he's there, and a guy starts messing with her, and he goes there and beats him up, and then I think he beats his friend up too. And then the owner threatens to fire him, but Nadira convinces him not to. So then that night, Nadira tells Leo, the guy's name is Leo, that she's gonna needs to tell him something really bad, but she still loves him and all this stuff. And he says, "Okay, well that doesn't matter." Blah blah blah.
Blah 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 blah.
So then that night she goes missing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, then we see we get introduced to Cactus Bill and Duck.
Right.
Cactus Bill.
Cactus Bill.
Cactus Bill played by Paul Rudd, and Duck is played by Justin Theroux. And basically they're both surgeons, and they were in a war together, and Duck is like a cybernetics specialist. He makes I don't know, cybernetics, prosthetic limbs that can move.
Yeah.
And they're working on a guy pulling bullets out of him. So basically they're surgeons for the mob. And I gotta think. This movie has one of the most muddled and convoluted and confusing plots I've ever.
Yeah, man. Feel free to snip wherever you want.
Yeah,
you're not getting a whole lot of help from me in the plot in this one. I'm not gonna lie.
So basically, Leo goes looking for Nadira. I think he goes and gets into another fight at the strip club, and then he gets fired.
Yeah, somehow he fights them again. I remember, and gets fired.
Because he knocks the girl out. Yeah, so he goes looking for her. He can't find her, and he starts. And then he first he talks to one of her friends, this gay guy, I think named Luba, and he's a prostitute. And then he tells Leo that Nadira was also a prostitute, which is probably what she was trying to tell Leo. So then he goes. He meets Cactus Bill by chance at a restaurant, and yeah, it's pretty funny. One of the only scenes in the movie I liked were.
I agree. I was just gonna say that
he's complaining about the there's no table service at the restaurant.
Yeah, that was a good scene, and he draws the picture of him.
Yeah, because he has a huge mustache, like a handlebar mustache, basically.
Yeah, it's a sweet stash.
All right, so then
there's no way that's real, right?
I don't know. It's
man, if Paul Rudd actually grew that mustache, salute to you, sir.
I was thinking about that when we watched Hostels, whether Christian Bale's mustache, because he had the same kind of mustache, was real. I really don't think it was. So this one was probably fake too.
Oh, Christian Bale had a mustache.
He had like a handlebar mustache, just like that one.
Oh man, I didn't even know.
Yeah, and
that.
I really don't think it was real.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
All right, we're getting off topic. This movie, like I said, the main issue with this movie is it would randomly switch to following Cactus Bill for very long periods of time, and you would forget that Leo was even in the movie.
Yeah.
So Leo keeps searching for Nadira. He ends up going to a black market. It's like a literal black market, and he sees Cactus Bill there, who's trying to get a passport. He has a daughter for him and his daughter, and he wants to leave Berlin finally. I'm not sure why he can't just go. I don't know if he's like a criminal or something. And he wants to go back to the USA.
Yeah. I guess he's a criminal.
I mean, he's obviously a criminal, but I guess he's like, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's the reason why.
And also, yeah, he was in the military because he has problems with like some military guy.
But at the same time, he runs into the police, and it's not like they arrest him on the spot. So I don't know what his status is, or if he's on some kind of parole or something. He can't leave the country. I don't know.
Yeah, because that guy's like a colonel or something in the military, and he gives him a hard time, and then doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's almost like they kind of have a love-hate type relationship where it's like, I hate you, but I let you go anyway.
Yeah. So it follows, I think at this point is when it switches to Cactus Bill and follows him for a very long time. So basically, let me think what he does. We have one scene where his his daughter, Justin Theroux, like picks her up, and then you get kind of get the vibe that Justin Theroux is like a pedophile, which he is. He's a pedophile for no reason.
Yeah, big time.
And then they go to like a brothel. I guess the babysitter was also a prostitute, and then Justin Theroux pays for that. I'm trying to think what happens after this. It follows Justin Theroux or Duck and Cactus Bill for a while. That's all I can remember.
Yeah, man, they just do some stuff.
Yeah, let's just skip ahead. So Cactus Bill finds out after like Duck just makes it exceedingly obvious that he's a pedophile, and not only is he a pedophile, but he has a cybernetics clinic for children, and he literally uses it to like take videos of children naked and stuff.
Yeah.
So then Bill basically threatens to break his arms if he doesn't stop doing what he's doing, and then he finds out he's finally leaving the country, and he goes to get his stuff, but Leo goes there first and takes his documents and beats up all the guys. I remember that part. And then
right.
Oh yeah, then Leo goes to Bill's house where he operates on patients, and he actually finds Nadira's corpse. So Bill basically finds out killed Nadira for some reason, which I'm still not sure why. And then Bill confronts him, and he ends up killing Bill with his own knife. And then probably the most messed up scene of the film, Duck comes down and doesn't save Bill because he's mad because he was mean to him. And not only that, he like turns this security camera like it's a monitor so he can watch his daughter's room, and so he can see him basically taking his daughters to do horrible things to. And I actually thought the film was getting ready to end there because Leo had like no reason.
I thought it was too. Yeah,
like Leo has no reason to even mess with Duck. And then Duck goes and finds Leo and knocks him out, and implants a thing into his neck so he can start talking because he wants him to talk for some reason. Even though he's clearly like Leo's a big dude. He's played by Alexander Skarsgård. He's like way bigger than Duck.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
And he takes him to a bridge where he wants him to confess. And then for some reason, like Leo decides the way he's going to kill him is he bear hugs him and jumps into the river and drowns him because Leo's a really strong swimmer. And then he comes up, and Josie, which is Bill's daughter, is getting ready to jump, and Leo finally yells, "No, don't do it." He gets out of the water, and he takes Josie to her grandmother's, and that's the end of the film.
Ooh, man. All right. I guess general thoughts. What did you think of Mute?
The plot was so unbelievably convoluted. Like I said, like you would literally not think the movie was even about Leo because it literally followed Cactus Bill for like 30 minutes at a time, and it was just like he wasn't even doing anything. Like he was just like they went bowling. There was a weird scene where he was like picking on that security guard, and Paul Rudd is not even a big guy, so I'm not sure why they did that scene.
No, I don't know either.
I mean, like it's so hard to follow. Like he does a little weird detective work, and finally, I don't know why Bill killed Nadira. I guess he was jealous or something. I mean, the movie was absolutely terrible.
I truly hated this movie. I mean, I can't even think of the words powerful enough to describe how much I hated it. Like I would rather sit through Cloverfield Paradox again than watch this movie. There's so many things I hated about it. I just don't. I guess my biggest problem is that it felt like two different movies wrapped under the umbrella of one movie. It felt like I was and I hated both of them. I didn't like either movie I was watching, but it felt like it jumped back and forth between a really uninteresting kind of procedural where a guy is trying to hunt down someone missing. And the other movie was like, a weird, at times I almost felt like I was watching like a Judd Apatow movie with these two bros hanging out. And then it also took various really dark turns that were just unnecessary. And then it would get back to them just hanging out. And it was the most convoluted piece of crap I've ever watched, or at least in recent memory.
You know what I also loved?
I hated it,
especially in the beginning. Like I was into it for like the first 10 minutes because it was like it had all like the Blade Runner-esque stuff going on, and it's like it has that aesthetic, but then it totally abandons it, and like it gets to a point where it might as well just be set in present day because it's like they almost like abandoned all of the interesting visuals and stuff.
Exactly. And I almost didn't even like the Blade Runner stuff because I watched 2049 so recently that it felt like this was just like 2-week-old leftovers of Blade Runner 2049. Like the visuals, it's like, yeah, they were kind of cool, but they just felt like to me they paled in comparison to Blade Runner 2049, and they felt so obviously inspired by them that it was impossible for me not to think of that movie when watching this. And yeah, I don't know. I wasn't even crazy about the visuals.
Oh yeah, me neither. Like, I also loved how like most of the visuals were like just modeled around how weird everyone was. Like, there were so many like the character. We didn't even get to this part. He had like these two like weird sex robots, and he was dressed up like a geisha. And it was like, what was that was that?
That was what's his name, Dominic Monaghan from Lost and Lord of the Rings, and I was like, it felt like. Alexander Skarsgård's whole part of the movie just felt like him going from one weird Hunger Games like character to another, just interviewing them, and all of them were uninteresting. And when I say Hunger Games, I mean like, did you ever see those movies or read the books?
I saw the first one, yeah.
It's like the people that live in that capital.
Oh yeah, like all
district.
It was like, I think all about like the degeneracy or whatever, but it like didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it just felt like this movie visually took ideas from all of those other popular dystopian films and just threw them in there. It was like, oh, well, let's have... This movie is so lazy. It just felt like, oh, well, let's have, people dressed really weird, and just all kinds of glitter and crazy haircuts like in Hunger Games. But I really like the visuals in Blade Runner, so let's have the city and everything look kind of Blade Runner-esque, and let's do this and that, and it tonally, this movie is just all over the place. Sometimes it tries to be really serious and gritty, and other times it's like it's like a comedy or like a relaxed bro movie, like with Justin Theroux and Paul Rudd, and it nothing worked in this for me, and I'm just trying to think of what to get to next. I didn't like the score. The score to me felt like someone left a synthesizer on in the background. It was just totally immemorable and was annoying. I kind of just wanted to like press a button and make the score go away. There was nothing good. Yeah, I wanted to mute it. This whole movie I just wanted to mute. And what else? Well, I thought the performances were not great. The only thing I can't say I even liked it, but the only thing I was even interested at all about in this movie was Paul Rudd.
I feel like Paul Rudd gave like an okay performance, and I feel like he was directed really poorly, because if he had stuck into more like the comic relief route, I think it would have worked. But there were scenes where it was like he was like trying to be funny, but it was clear he wasn't supposed to be funny, and I don't think that he was given good direction at all.
I don't think so either. And I didn't like Paul Rudd's character or even particularly his performance, but at least when he was on screen, I was conscious. Like I was awake. And
it seemed like he gave, at least, he tried. I mean, Justin Theroux, I don't know what was going on with him.
Yeah, I was mildly interested in Paul Rudd's character, or at least his performance. I didn't like it really, but at least there were moments where I was kind of like engaged a little bit when he was on screen. I hated Justin Theroux. I didn't like his performance. I didn't like the look of that character, and I thought the character itself was so despicable.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like, I get that he was supposed to be like upsetting, but it was like, oh my god, like why would you put this character in this film? Like, this is atrocious.
The problem is there was just no need for him in the movie. Like, I'm not even against despicable characters. I mean, I loved Michael Shannon in Shape of Water. Yeah. That's a despicable character.
But there was no need for him to be like that.
There was no need for him to be like that. And he was so despicable and had no redeeming qualities, but it really felt like the director wanted you to kind of like his relationship with Paul Rudd and laugh at it. I didn't laugh once between those two characters. I thought it was just weird, and the sexual undertones of those two characters was never explored and felt weird too. And everything where they call each other babes, and like, I don't know if that's the director being like, oh, it's the future, and we just...
Well, I think that Justin Theroux's character was just... Because I think he was the only one really calling Paul Rudd's character babe, and I think it's just because he was supposed to be like a freaking weirdo, like a degenerate freak.
Oh, Paul Rudd didn't
I don't
say
think
it back.
he said it back. If he did, he didn't say it much.
But they held hands too in a couple different parts in the movie, and that whole relationship takes up so much of the movie, and it's just it's not funny, it's not interesting, and it's not even really guided. I mean,
Duck really, he just didn't need to be in the film at all, because like the driving force behind the plot was Paul Rudd's character. Duck was just kind of there.
He was just there, but his character is so despicable and so disturbing that they devote. There's like that whole scene where he's just filming that little girl on the treadmill, and it goes on for too long, and it doesn't need to be there. You know, it's like if there's a character that's despicable that serves a purpose to the plot, or has some kind of commentary or something like that, so be it. I'm all for it. But in the context of this movie, it just felt so out of place and so unnecessary that it was just revolting.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, okay, you have like, maybe he was supposed to like be a comment on how degenerate people will be in the future, but it's like he wasn't even like the main antagonist was Cactus Bill. Like Duck was he literally was just kind of hanging around doing stuff, and until the end I didn't even think that he was gonna like interact with Leo at all. Like I thought he was just kind of a side piece that would just go away.
Yeah, and there was no commentary on that either. Like in Blade Runner, like there's a lot of misogyny in this movie, and it just felt weird. Like it didn't feel like it was making any commentary. At least in Blade Runner, there's commentary with that, like, oh, this is a dystopian future where, sex is sold and things like that. But in this, there's just a lot of misogynistic and or pedophile characters, and there's no reason. Like there's that guy in the bar who's just a blatant misogynist, just assaulting the bar, that whoever the main girl is, I can't remember her name. That guy was just a huge tool bag, and then there's the guy in the whatever, the pizza or restaurant or whatever. It's like, oh, I only remember chicks' numbers. It's just, I don't understand why this movie was like this. It didn't make any commentary, and it was just nothing about this movie was smart or had anything to say. It just sucked.
Yeah, this movie was a mess, a complete and utter mess. I wonder, like, why the editor or something didn't be like, man, you needed something needs to change.
Yeah, and it was just so just meandering. Like this movie could have been like 50 minutes long, and I still would have hated it. But it would have been, I mean, there's long scenes of Paul Rudd and Justin Theroux just hanging out, and it doesn't, with nothing, it doesn't lead anywhere, and it doesn't even really build their friendship, because although they obviously seem to have gone through some stuff together in the war, it's never particularly, expanded on. It's just kind of assumed that these two had a lot of war happenings, and then at times, and then, like, for example, when Paul Rudd finds out that Justin Theroux is this rabid pedophile, there's a scene where he confronts him about it. But then it's like 5 minutes later, they're like hanging out again. Yeah, that was fine.
Like, and it's so weird. Like,
it makes no sense. To break his arms.
They're like, let's go celebrate. Like, what?
Yeah, and that's after Paul Rudd finds out that Justin Theroux installed a camera in his little girl's room. So presumably, I feel like we're led to believe that Justin Theroux has like seen Paul Rudd's daughter undressing and stuff. And Paul Rudd's like, he's really mad about it for like 2 minutes, and then they're like bros again 30 seconds later. It doesn't make any sense. And again, I just don't know why that stuff needed to be in the movie, because it adds
just like the scene where Paul Rudd, like there's a scene with the security guard confronts him, and he gets up in his face, and they even have like the camera pan up to make it look like Paul Rudd is like really big and intimidating. But first of all, the scene made no sense, and second of all, like Paul Rudd wasn't even that much bigger than the guy.
No, and I started laughing during that scene. And that's the thing. It's like Paul Rudd, I didn't think he was great in the movie, and there were times where I was laughing when I don't think I was supposed to be, but it almost feels like Paul Rudd didn't work as that character. But I will say he had a charisma and just a quality of performance that drew me to him as opposed to everybody else in the movie, but it still felt like he was miscast, or
I don't even know if he was so much miscast as that the character just was terribly written and terribly directed.
Yeah. And the writing in this is just awful too.
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't care at all. I mean, like, the plot, you don't care about it because it makes no sense. Like, he just kind of wanders around until he stumbles upon Nadira's corpse, and that's it.
Yeah, there's no buildup. There's no mystery, and the relationship. Then we can get to Skarsgård and Nadira, and I mean, there's nothing there. They literally, it's not even. I wasn't even super clear. Are they married? It just kind of seems like they're loosely together. I mean, she spends one night with him while he watches her shower, and then I guess they have sex, and then it's like the next morning she's just gone. And I don't know, there's no, and then he's just looking for her the whole movie, and then he finds her and she's just been killed and like put in a bag, and there's no payoff to that. There's no reason for it happening. Was she, for a second, I was really like zoning in and out, but for a second I thought maybe she was the mom to Paul Rudd's kid. Was that hinted at, or
that may have actually been the thing, because like he met the grandmother of Josie, so maybe that was Nadira's mother. I don't know. This movie lost both of us, and I tried to get through it a second time too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was not paying super close attention to this movie. I mean, I took it in, but I'm not gonna lie, I was on my phone at times. I was kind of
I like got up and walked around my room. I was like, I can't do this. Apparently Nadira was Josie's mother, so that's why he killed her, I guess, because I never knew why he killed her.
No, I didn't either. Oh, Nadira is Josie's mother. Okay. But it's even the way that's revealed was just so uninteresting and so bland. And I still like, why did he kill her then? I don't know. It just makes no, and even Skarsgård's involvement in the plot just felt so forced. But why? There were so many scenes early on where Paul Rudd or whoever would bring up, oh, there's this bartender guy. Like, why are they even bringing him up? All he did was get in a minor altercation at the bar with one of his goons. Like, it just felt like so forced that Skarsgård was even thrust into this plot with Paul Rudd. It just, I hated it.
Yeah, I mean, it literally felt like many different films stitched together into one.
Yeah,
I mean, a few other things. And the action sequences were pretty bad.
Yeah, they weren't memorable. The ending too. I hated the ending. I had no idea where that came from. Like, how did Justin Theroux know where that particular spot was that Skarsgård almost drowned when he was a kid, and then he takes him there? Why?
Is that where that was?
Why did that even?
I guess that would make sense, but
oh, maybe I'm wrong.
I just thought that's some random bridge, but you know.
Oh, you could be right. I thought he took him to where he almost drowned as a kid, because I thought there was some line of dialogue that was like, oh, you remember this place or something? I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. But the ending just felt so forced, and just the fact that Josie is kind of becomes Skarsgård's kid after the movie's over, it just felt like such a like, oh, we got to have a happy ending somehow. Let's just, let's have the nice guy get the daughter, the innocent daughter, as his daughter now. And it just felt so, everything felt forced.
I think we can, do we have anything else to say?
I don't know, man. I nothing really comes to mind. It was just, it was a piece of shit.
I think we can stick a fork in this one.
All right, man. What are you giving it out of 10?
I'm actually going to go 3 out of 10.
I'm going 1. Ooh, it's
that's brutal.
It's a 1. It's a 1 for me, and I'm just gonna say right off the bat, this will be, just spoiler alert, this will be the bottom movie on my list of movies we watch for this podcast. It was brutal.
I'm gonna be honest. This still is not a worse movie than It Follows for me.
I would even watch It Follows.
I think that maybe It Follows is a better movie, but I think that everything about it I hated so much that. And I mean, the one thing I will say about this movie is I did like Paul Rudd in a few scenes, and that's what kept it off of a 1 for me.
Yeah, the one scene I did like was the diner scene.
Yeah, that was a pretty good scene.
But the problem with that even is they threw in it was like such a throw-in pandery moment from Moon.
That was so dumb that they had that going on in the background.
Yeah, that tarnished that scene for me. Like, that was a scene I was enjoying. And for a split second, I was like, maybe I'm going to get into this movie. And having that on the background was just even tarnished that scene for me. But yeah, I truly, truly despise this movie. Like, I thought Cloverfield Paradox was bad, and it is terrible. But This movie had a couple moments that were maybe a little bit higher cinematically for me than Cloverfield Paradox, but there were so many more things in this movie that I truly despised, whereas Cloverfield Paradox was just more on a mediocre level throughout. That, yeah, I let's throw this one in the trash and move on.
All right, so Wind River.
All right, next we got Wind River, directed by Taylor Sheridan, and a very different experience. So let's get into this one.
All right, so this stars Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen, and it opens with. Does it open with the girl running or with him with the sheep?
I think the girl running.
So it opens with a girl running through the snow. She's like almost naked, bleeding. She falls and she's dead. And then the next scene is we see Jeremy Renner. What's his character's name? Corey. I don't remember. I don't remember them calling him Corey.
I actually I couldn't remember that either.
And so it shows him he's basically like, I think he shoots. There's like some wolves stalking these like sheep or something, and he shoots one of them, and then the other runs away. And he's a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they're also in the they're on an Indian reservation in Wyoming. So then while he's out there, he's like tracking mountain lions, and he comes across a corpse, and he calls, and so apparently like the FBI basically investigates crimes on Indian reservations, and they send out Elizabeth Olsen's character, whose name is Jane, and she is obviously like not equipped at all to deal with this because she's like from Las Vegas. Well, she's from Florida and stationed in Las Vegas. So she gets out there right away. Like she does not even have enough warm clothing to get out to the body. So they have to take her, and she has to wear the clothing of another dead Native American girl, which is all very insulting, I guess. So then they ride out there and they find the corpse. What's the girl that was murdered? What was her name?
Oh man,
Natalie.
I think it was Natalie. That sounds right.
So she was murdered, and they also see that she was raped. So they send her to the medical examiner, and basically Jane says that all she needs to do is declare it a homicide, and they'll send like a real team of FBI agents out. So then the medical examiner is like, well, she actually died. She died from breathing in cold air too fast, and it caused her lungs to explode. So basically he can't call it a homicide, even though it clearly was, because she didn't actually die from being murdered, which this is all like very insulting to Jane, but I guess it does make sense. So then
yeah, that scene was so frustrating. I mean, I guess theoretically, that I don't know how that process works at all, but I guess it's realistic. But
something tells me it wouldn't play out like that in real life at all. Especially like it doesn't make sense that she couldn't call for help anyway. Like, I mean, I don't know. She's allowed to stay out there and investigate it, but she can't call for backup, even though like the medical examiner would even tell her FBI like field office guy that it was obviously a murder. He just can't write that. That felt a little. There was a few things in this movie I didn't like, and that was one of them. I don't know if that was terribly believable. I mean, it was believable, but I don't know that it would really happen like that. So then she talks to Corey. It might have been before this, and since he knows the land so well, he's like a tracker. He hunts animals. She asks him to help him investigate because it's basically just her. The tribal police have like 5 officers or something, and then him. So she asks him to help him go around, and basically the first thing she wants to do is figure out where she was running from. And he says that there was like a house and then the oil. What was it? An oil field?
Yeah.
There's an oil field 5 miles away, and she thinks that's too far. And he's basically like, that's probably where she ran from. So then they find out her identity, and they go to talk to her parents first, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they go to talk to her parents, and this is another scene I didn't like. So the father explains that she's 18 and was with her boyfriend, and apparently nobody knows who her boyfriend is. And she's like, well, why didn't you know? He's like, well, I'm a bad father. I don't care. That scene didn't sit well with me at all. And then he's like, you can go talk to her mother. And she walks into her mother, who's cutting herself. And then she's like, oh. And everybody's just kind of like, well, just let her do it. You know, whatever. I wasn't a fan of that scene.
Yeah,
I don't know that that's the way you handle
tough.
that situation, especially if you know what's happening. Everybody just like stands around with their thumbs up their butts.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I guess.
I mean, I can understand Jane not
hard.
intervening, but I feel like that the way the father would just kind of stand there and let it happen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like on one hand it was believable, but on the other hand, I don't think that all those people would just sit there and be like, "Well, this is normal," because it clearly isn't, and there are things you should do in that situation.
Yeah, I agree with that it's not normal, but I can't. I kind of bought it. Just
like what would you do in
that?
I don't know.
It just felt. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think I would intervene or something, but it's the way that was handled was effective for me still.
Basically, I mean, and the father, and also this is believable. Maybe this is just he was supposed to be portrayed this way. Like the father's like, I'm a lousy father, and it's not my fault. Like, well, you could at least like know where your 18-year-old daughter who she's dating. Anyway,
well, he also has that line where he says he chose to trust her, and he chose wrong. So I mean, he sort of has a self-awareness about the fact that.
Yeah, he's a good character. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if that was like supposed to be a flaw in the character or was supposed to be saying something, because it's like he kind of makes a remark about how it's not his fault because of the white man. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he basically talks about how all the crap going on in the reservation.
Well, it kind of makes it seem like if he could go back, he would have done things differently, but he's a character that's maybe filled with regret.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, later on, it's very obvious that he's filled with regret.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, then they, what do they go? Is it her brother they're going to visit or what? Because they go to the other place.
Yeah, it was the house that was closer than the oil field to her death spot.
Oh, that's where they go.
Yeah, it's her brother was there with his ne'er-do-well friends.
So they go there, and this scene was something. This scene was believable, but also maybe a little ridiculous. They go there, and there's like this this druggy dude who's like high on something, and they go there with the police chief, and he's like, these people are not, they're drug addicts, and they're always getting arrested and stuff. And they're trying to talk to him, and he's like, I got something for you, and it's like bear mace, I think, or something. So bear maces is Elizabeth and the tribal police chief. What was his name?
I can't remember what his name was.
And Ben, yeah. So while they're kind of disabled, I think that the brother and another guy try to run off, and Corey waits out the back, and he hits him with a snow shovel. So then Jane goes in there, and the guy that bear maced him gets a shotgun and tries to murder her, so she shoots him up. And this is another thing. After this, they would have for sure called in more FBI agents. They would not have been like, all right, whatever, you killed somebody, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all portrayed as very believable, true. And that's my issue, is like, when you use a high degree of realism, like, after you killed somebody, they'd be like, all right, we're calling more people, and clearly there's like a bad crap going on here. They would not have been like, whatever.
But at the same time, I guess that's bad crap that town has been dealing with for how long.
Yeah, but anytime an FBI agent, gets shot at and shoots somebody, I'm sure that would suddenly.
I agree.
Would have been like,
it seems like
there
would be. Yeah, it seems like there would be some, or maybe they would send her. It seems like that would be a big enough real life event that she would be. Something would have happened.
They may have
pulled
her out of there or sent help. Something would have happened there, and like they don't even address that again. Like, all right, you killed somebody, you're good to go.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so
it's just kind of.
Then they also discover another body who is they find out is Natalie's. I don't know if they find out now, but it's the corpse of a security guard from the oil field named Matt, and they also find out that was Natalie's boyfriend. So then they talk to her brother, and I think he's the one that tells them that Matt was her boyfriend. So then finally they're like, all right, we're going to go investigate this oil field, because obviously some stuff happened there. And so they drive up there, and at the same time, Jeremy Renner's character, for some reason, decides he goes there with him, but I guess he decides to go hunt for those mountain lions instead while they're there. So he goes off to do that thing, and then they go with like the entire police force, and
it also just kind of like I think it's just because Jeremy Renner's character is also kind of a lone wolf and a rogue. Like, he was just kind of off doing his own thing.
Yeah. There's
like he comes and goes.
That really bothered me. Yeah, so they go in there and they meet the security guards and they ask to see like the footage and they want to see Matt's bunk. So first, while they're talking to him, they're basically like, oh yeah, they both ran off. We don't know what happened. They're missing. And then during the scene, they security guards start kind of like, they have guns, like a lot of guns, and they start kind of flanking the police officers. And then one of the police officers draws his gun. He's like, why are you trying to flank me like that? So then they get in this big standoff. They all have their guns pulled, including the FBI agent, Jane. And so finally, like, they all have their guns pulled, and Jane kind of diffuses, like, you need to put your guns away because, you know, I'm an FBI agent. And they're like, well, you're trespassing. You can't be here. So they put their guns away, and Jane goes up to Matt's trailer. They all live in trailers, and knocks on the door. And this was a cool edit. And then they show actually what happened to Natalie and Matt. And
yeah,
this was a really well edited. Yeah, so Matt basically answers the door, and it's Natalie. And it shows them they're like in bed together, and all of the other security guards come back and they're drunk. And one of the guys who's just like an inbred retard, basically, is like really pressed on Natalie because she's in the bed. And he sits on the bed and he's like bothering them. And Matt's like, can you get this guy off of here? So then he like kicks him off. And then he comes back and Matt gets into a fight and starts beating up, I don't remember what the guy's name was. Just call him.
I think his name was Pete.
Because he looks like an inbred in the movie.
Inbred Pete.
Inbred Pete. So he starts beating him up, and then all of the security guards basically just like lose it, and just they get Matt. They start beating him down. Yeah, one of the guys like bludgeons him with like a lead pipe. They're very bad at dealing with escalating situations, and then Inbred Pete decides he's gonna have his way with Natalie, so he rapes her. She gets up, and Matt basically fights off, and she runs off, and then they kill Matt, and then it cuts back, and the police chief discovers that there's something bad up, and he tells Elizabeth Olsen to get away from the door, and a guy shoots through the door, and then it gets into a big gunfight. There's two guys in the trailer. One of them has like a M4 or something, and they all shoot each other up. They most of them are dead, and then except Jane is like wounded. She kills one.
Those oil rig guys are heavily armed.
It was a little ridiculous how heavily armed they were. I mean,
I was fine with it, but I was just I started laughing. I was like, damn, they've got some artillery.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't fine with it. I'll explain later, but so they get into a fight. There's like two left outside and two inside, and then suddenly, I don't remember, does he take the shot first or do they see him first?
I think he takes the shot first. So basically one of them
gets shot, and they're like, oh crap, there's one more. So then they're looking for him, and they can't see him. They look, and you just see this really good shot of Corey like wearing like all this white camouflage, like blending into the snow perfectly. And he has like this lever action rifle. And I guess he like early
that
in the
rifle
movie,
was
he was
amazing.
like messing with his ammo, and I think he was like making them explosive or hollow points or something. Because he's just like taking them out one by one, and like the bullets are like exploding and just sending them flying. So he kills everybody. And he wounds the one guy in the leg, or Jane maybe shoots him, and he runs off. So he comes down. Of course, everybody's dead except Jane. He helps her, and then he chases down the inbred Pete. Of course, is the lone survivor. And he takes him out, and he's like, basically like, this is 5 miles from the nearest highway, and if you can make it on foot, you know, you get to go free, even though he knows he's not going to make it, because he wants to make him try and run as far as Natalie ran. So the guy runs like 10 feet and then falls over and dies. So after that, Corey visits Jane in the hospital, and they have a little thing, and then Corey goes and visits Natalie's parents again, who, like, the mother is doing a little better, and I guess the father was like, I don't know, thinking about killing himself, but he decides not to.
And he gets a call from his son.
Yeah, I guess they're trying to patch things up. And that's pretty much it.
Alrighty, so what did you think of Wind River, Dave, overall?
I really like this movie. I just feel like that there were like a few implausible events. Mostly the final shootout was just like, I think the director just wanted a really good shootout, but I mean, it was totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. I loved it. I
loved the movie, but man, that just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we probably feel pretty similarly. I think I just kind of went along with some things that maybe you had more of an issue with. And I understand because it is presented very realistically, but I thought that shootout was awesome. And just that shot of Corey wearing that all white cutting over to him, it's so amazing.
That was an amazing shot. And like you can barely see him, so you know they couldn't see him at all.
And this is another one of those movies that just kind of pushes my buttons. I am a sucker for these procedural, just well shot movies that are set in remote locations. Like, I know another movie I watched not too long ago that I loved similarly, and it's not a procedural, but I watched The Grey.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of this, just in a very barren setting, just people against wilderness, and just sort of, you have this remote feeling like you're detached from the rest of civilization, and how characters deal with that. And this movie just delivers for me, man. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought the story was engaging. I thought Jeremy Renner was awesome.
His performance was very good.
Yeah, and I thought this was right up there, maybe even better than The Town as far as his performances have gone.
Yeah.
And I thought Elizabeth Olsen was really good, who I didn't realize she was a relative of, or like a sister or whatever.
That's the one Olsen sister that ended up like having a real serious acting career, which is hilarious.
I did not know that, because I thought she looked a little familiar, and then I was looking her up during the movie. I was like, what?
Yeah, I think everybody was pretty shocked by that.
I thought her relationship with Jeremy Renner's character was really good, almost like I'm glad they didn't go in the romantic route too. It was almost more of a father-daughter relationship, and I thought it worked really well. And I thought all the performances were really good in the movie. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it too. Like, Jeremy Renner was great. The cinematography was great. It had good dialogue.
Yeah, the score, the dialogue was really tight, and the score I thought was really good. That's kind of spoken word song that kept playing too was really effective. The cinematography was amazing.
I also think it had like enough action to keep pretty much anyone interested. I was surprised by how much action there was.
Yeah, I didn't think there was going to be as much action as there was in the movie. There was a couple, 2 or 3 different really good shootout scenes, and I even think that flashback scene was, like you said, really well edited.
Yeah,
I also like how John Barenthal, who played Matt, I thought he was going to be the bad guy, and I was like, I'm sick of seeing this guy as like the standard, like, really troubled bad guy. And I like how they I think the director kind of knew that and flipped the script and made him more of a good guy. And I thought that was interesting. And even that whole scene it was a really disturbing scene. Like, that was a hard to watch rape
absolutely
scene. But
I think it was a little
I
bit,
felt maybe
I think the way that those guys reacted was maybe a little ridiculous, because I mean, it kind of was implied that he was friends with him, and then like they were pretty willing to kill him at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, it was weird, because it kind of towed the line between ridiculous but also very authentic. Like, I don't
think the director, he just does such a good job with these scenes that they feel real, even though when you kind of like look at them through a lens, you're like, all right, this is a little stupid.
Exactly. It's like if a lesser director was handling some of these scenes, I think they might be just, as you said, ridiculous, but they're handled in such a good way that everything builds kind of naturally. And I guess, it's not so far removed from reality, at least it wasn't for me, that I couldn't go along with it.
The only scene that was like that for me
it
was the big shootout.
The shootout, yeah. Which, I was just along for the ride for that too, but I don't know. It's a movie I don't have a ton to say about. It was just really just a good movie. I will say it would have been close to making my top 10 if I had seen this last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have quite made it. I think I probably like this movie better than Mother, which was my number 10 on a first time watch, but I would also probably rather revisit Mother. This is like one of those movies where I don't necessarily have a strong urge to watch this again soon, but it was such an effective first time watch for me that I loved it. And I thought what it set out to do, it just did really well. It didn't try to do anything, it didn't try to be too ambitious or anything crazy. It was just kind of a small, quiet story, and it was just really
I kind of like
done.
The parallels between like in the beginning where like Jeremy Renner's like hunting the wolves and he's like protecting the sheep, and then at the end he's like he's like hunting the guys. They're basically like the equivalent of wolves, and he's just taking care of them.
Yeah, it was great. And his character was just almost this mythic type character. And he was just, but at the same time, he was kind of an everyman. Like, I don't know. He was just really good. I liked his relationship with his son, felt authentic. Everything in this movie just felt authentic to me. And the performances were all right on. I thought Jeremy Renner was super authentic. I liked I like the scenes with his son. I thought that his relationship with his, I guess, ex-wife felt natural and, troubled, but they both felt like they had moved on, tried to move on from it. And I just loved watching him. I loved all the little procedural things where he'd be building the bullets.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Even just hunting, I thought was really good.
Yeah, I could have watched more of him just like, because when he's tracking the animals, it's really interesting.
It is. Like, I loved watching him just do stuff. Like, the scene with him showing his son how to ride that horse was amazing. And yeah, he was just really good. And Elizabeth Olsen was great too. And she was kind of the perfect counterbalance to his character, because she represented, it was hard to relate to people in this town. And she was kind of the character where it's like, well, if I was thrust into that situation, obviously I'd probably be a lot more like her, where I have no experience with any of the harsh living conditions that these guys go through on a daily basis. So she's sort of the fish out of water element that you need in a movie like this. And I thought she did a really good job, but she also holds her own.
Yeah, I like that.
And I like that scene.
Like, basically like spunky. Like, she wasn't going to let them push her around, but she also was kind of out of her element.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that scene at the end was really powerful too, where they're talking and she's in the hospital bed and he's talking about how she, she needed to earn her survival out here, and she did that, and now she gets to go home. And I thought that was just a really good scene. The writing in this movie was really good.
Yeah, definitely. The dialogue was great.
Yeah, the dialogue was just really tense, and it was, the whole movie was kind of minimalist.
Yeah, it was also like pretty short. I felt like it moved along very fast.
Yeah, exactly. And to think that this movie and Mute, where I think they were pretty similar runtimes, and it just felt, this movie was on and then off, and Mute, I felt like I was watching for like 7 years.
Yeah, like honestly, like when they got to that final shootout, I was like, is this movie over already? Because I was like, wow, it's...
Yeah, I'm trying to think of things that I had problems with. I don't know. I didn't really... I mean, it's not a perfect movie for me, and it's not, I'm not going to give it a 10, but I also at the same time can't really think of many things I didn't like about it. It was just really...
I mean, my big knock is like, I think that they easily were going to get away with their crimes. Like, it seemed pretty obvious that like maybe the DNA would have came back with that one guy if he was in the system, but it's like, it seemed pretty obvious that they could have played it off. Oh, is he chased her out into the snow after a fight, and they both got killed. But for some reason they decided, well, a smarter idea is to try and kill this FBI agent and all these police officers, because surely we can get away with that. That was just absurd.
Yeah, it kind of seemed... It was, and it kind of seems like, I guess you're supposed to believe these guys are kind of at the end of the rope. They don't really know what to do, and they're just, pushed into desperate measures. But yeah, it was, if they had cooler heads, they could have gone about things, I think, a lot differently. But it also just kind of paints those characters as very impulsive, reckless, frustrated characters that are probably not the happiest with their lives. So maybe they just... It almost seems like maybe they're the type of people that were like, hey, we're up for a good shootout.
Yeah, I mean, they did. And then they had the whole thing where he's like, there's nothing to do out here, which I thought was funny, the contrast. Like, he complains that they're in the middle of nowhere and they have nothing to do. And Jeremy Renner's like, well, there's a lot of people here that were not here by choice, and they managed to get by, so.
Yeah, exactly. It's the two sides of the coin, where Jeremy Renner's character is also in the same situation as most of the other people in the town, but whereas a lot of them can't handle it, he's just... has an inner strength that he's able to just deal with it, and believably so. He just seems to take pride in his work, and just does.
Yeah, I mean,
his
he
thing.
came off as like this kind of like legendary mountain man, but at the same time, like, you could believe that he was a very real person.
He did, yeah. It was weird because he almost feels like this mythological figure, but at the same time, like, I totally believe that he's just this real kind of regular guy. It's weird, and even the way that he's kind of roped into the whole investigation, just, it almost like, I don't know that would really happen, but it felt natural the way it does. Like, it just makes sense that he was kind of pulled into this situation.
Yeah. I was interested in that. I was kind of wondering if that's something that they could do in real life, but I guess the idea was like, he was like working for the U.S. government, so it wouldn't be like obscene for him to be helping someone out.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, would an FBI agent really like enlist the help of just this guy who lives in this town? But I don't know. Just the way everything is done in this movie is handled so well and seamlessly that I just was, I don't know, I was just wrapped up in it and forgiving of anything that might, upon further thought or in the hands of a lesser director, probably have been absurd even.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this guy showed how skillful he is by making all these things believable when they, a few of them were not. And I really think because I mean, just to me, it's like, I feel like the way that final scene went, like, I think that they probably, maybe not the one dude, they would have gotten away with what they did just because, like, it was like it wrapped up in a pretty bow for them. Like, all right, he got into a fight with his girlfriend, chased her into the snow, and they both died, and we didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, and even the way that the whole mystery unfolds, I was a little skeptical at first when it kind of revealed the whole scene right there in that 2/3 of the way through the movie. But the way it's done is just, I thought it was a decently interesting mystery, and it was just well executed, and it wasn't anything crazy. It was sort of obviously, anytime there's a rape, that's horrendous and crazy, but it just
wasn't like this ridiculous murder mystery. It was just like,
yeah, it was kind of, something you might expect might happen under those circumstances, but it was just done really well, and I just bought it. And it just, I love that last scene with him in Brad Pitt too.
Oh,
just letting him run away. That was just so good. And he just kind of sits there and watches him go. And, Jeremy Renner, he was a character that, again, it's like in a different movie. I never really felt like Jeremy Renner's character was in danger. I always knew that he was going to have the upper hand and be 2 steps ahead of everybody, of the bad guys, but I was just okay with that. And so on one hand, I never really thought his character was in much danger, but at the same time, that didn't really matter.
It was almost like he was like literally a force of nature, just like rolling through.
Yeah, and just taking people out. And yeah, I liked his relationship with everybody in the movie. I thought he and Elizabeth Olsen kind of had a natural chemistry and played off each other really well. I thought he and the father of the missing girl I thought that was an interesting relationship, and the mutual respect there, and I thought his home life was interesting. Yeah, it was just awesome.
I mean, are we ready to put a number on this?
Yeah, not too. Yeah, let's go for it.
I'm going 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm writing that. I'm going to go 9. It was really, really good. Check out Wind River if you haven't. It didn't really get much. I feel like it kind of came and went as far as publicity. Like, I didn't really hear too much about it. I know it was in theaters for a little while, but I can understand this movie not necessarily being nominated for Best Picture or anything like that. It doesn't really have any lofty commentary or anything like that, but as far as just a near perfectly well executed procedural, it's got everything you want. I mean, the performances are great, the visuals and cinematography are amazing, the score is good. It's got an interesting mystery. I loved it.
Yeah, same here.
All right, let's put a bow on this sucker. Thanks for listening, everybody. Follow us on Facebook at Serious Film Critics. We are on Twitter under serious_critics. Send us emails at seriousfilmcritics@gmail.com. And yeah, just like all of our stuff and send us emails, and we love that kind of thing. So, alrighty, anything else, Dave, or should we hit the old dusty trail?
No, not in particular. I think that pretty much does it. I don't know what we're going to be planning for the next episode, but we do have that Western episode coming up soon.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do next episode. There is a Western episode coming where we're going to review a whole spectrum of episodes. This may even be like a special episode we do, or occasionally maybe like a genre-themed episode or something like that, but it's going to be a big one, but I don't know what the next one will be. Just stay tuned, and you got a good one coming your way, people. So thanks for listening, and catch you later.